Just put on some headphones and jumped on my machine. And I'm cutting rough and it's coming up all nice and clean. My homie's right behind me and he got some stuff to spring. All together now. Let's maintain that turf today, that turf today, that turf today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, recorded on the Superintendent Network and brought to you by Toro. I'm your host, Adam Courchaine, joined by my co-host, Brian Laurent, and today we have another great episode lined up. Joining us is one of the most respected voices in the turfgrass industry, Cornell's own Dr. Frank Rossi. Frank has spent decades educating superintendents, advancing sustainable golf course management, and helping shape the future of turf through research, communication, and practical agronomy. From his work at Cornell to consulting with superintendents, podcasting, and speaking around the world, Frank has become a major influence on how golf courses are maintained today. We're going to dive into his career journey, the evolution of golf course maintenance, sustainability, technology in turf, and where he sees the industry heading in the future. We were very excited to get to talk to Frank today. He is one of my favorites in the industry. I could listen to him chat all day long. He has some great publications and podcasts out there. So after you listen to this episode, once you fall in love with him, head on out there and listen to more. I'm going to patch Brian in from Ohio, see how he is doing. It's been a couple of weeks. Missed you a little bit.
Yeah, man.
You're crazy busy down at Aronimink. How was everything down there?
Aronimink was fantastic. Golf course held up so well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was so much chatter going into the week from players and golf media. They're going to destroy this golf course, blah, 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 blah. But man, that golf course performed. It was great. The boys, the men and women there on the crew just had it absolutely dialed in. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, it looked like it was an amazing week and a little bit of pushback from the players, but I think people handled it well and kind of said, you guys are pros and this is a major and we're trying to set the stage for, a great finish and all that. So I thought it turned out with a very fun finish, having Aaron Rye win it, a big putt on 17 and then closing it out on 18. It was a cool one. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a competitive finish. You had Justin Thomas sitting in the clubhouse and a few more guys just kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. But, well deserved from the two-glove man.
Yeah. No, I was in the same boat as you. Like, I was so excited to turn it on Sunday afternoon and just watch this close finish. And there for a while, again, it was kind of looking like it was going to be a 7-man playoff or something. It could have gone so many ways, but yeah, Aaron Rye just freaking stepped up and shot 31 on the back nine.
Incredible.
Just took control. It was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, the golf course was great. Setup, I thought was perfect. There was nothing crazy about it. They just set it up to be a challenging golf course.
Yeah, 100%.
Difficult hole locations. There was nothing unfair. There was nothing that couldn't be managed by just thinking your way around the golf course. So I thought it was great. The weather cooperated. We talked to Will Haskett about it the other day on the pod. Defending against the best players in the world, you need Mother Nature's help, and they got a lot of help from Mother Nature with, little rain, no rain. I think actually Thursday through Sunday, and then had those heavy winds. So it just really did wonderful things for the golf course and setup, and took advantage of it. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it made it for
just
an
a
entertaining
great
weekend.
crew, man. Great crew. Oh my gosh. Had so much fun with their team. I was out there a couple weeks before, spent some time with them, and then was there Sunday for the volunteer welcome meeting through Wednesday. So got to spend multiple shifts with the team and with the volunteers, and just a fantastic culture that they have there at Aronimink. Great crew. They've got a bunch of their management team that that all went to college together, and then they worked there at Aronimink for, you know, anywhere from 3 to 7 years together. So, you know, they know each other well. They joke around. It definitely is a family feel there. So happy for them. Happy they, you know, got to be a part of a major championship. And, you know, obviously they got to share it with a lot of their friends and peers that came in to volunteer, and just, it's always a special opportunity.
We got a lot of great content from a bunch of different people. It was really cool to see all the different things they were doing, and it seemed like it was a lot of fun. And I
Yeah.
love the sense of pride that people take. You know, you come from wherever, wearing
Yeah.
your golf course's stuff. They hand you new clothes with the Aronimink logo on it. Now you're part of that team. You're part of that push to make everything perfect. And it's cool to see the sense of pride people take. You have new friends that you just met yesterday, and all of a sudden you're part of this big special movement. So I love that. And then, you know, right back to your old course, and you're remotivated. You can talk about the tournament and tell your coworkers about it and stuff like that. And I think that's another part that goes a little bit untalked about sometimes, is that motivation that you now have from that professional experience to take back to your hometown and your course. It's huge.
Yeah. I specifically had that conversation with multiple people. You know, it was, you're going to go home and you're probably going to go back to work on Monday after just working a tournament for a whole week, but you're going to be able to fight through that because you're so excited. You've got so much adrenaline. You've learned so much. You've seen, you know, a different level. You know, for most people, they just witnessed a completely different level, seen what is possible, you know, clearly with resources, with 100 sets of hands and loaner equipment and all sorts of things. But, you know, yeah, people come home and just have new ideas, and just, again, like you said, they're energized. And yeah, I mean, I think it does a lot of good. And I mean, again, specifically had that conversation with multiple directors, head superintendents, whatever, you know, they just said being a part of a tournament has done so much for my career because it's shown me what's possible. And it's just, you know, given me a new outlook on this industry and just how people are able to come together and make something like this happen. So yeah, always a cool opportunity, especially with, you know, those majors and elevated events and things like that get talked about all the time. So it's fun.
Yeah, and sets up really well for Shinnecock, because that's going to be another big production. And I know we talked to Ryan Trudeau about a month ago or so, and he was saying, like, those guys are just chomping at the bit to get the players down there and show off the golf course and, you know, challenge these elite golfers, because it's part of it, right? It's a major.
Yep, it's a major. Yep, they're on the clock, and, you know, Shinnecock never disappoints when it comes to U.S. Open golf. So looking forward to seeing what happens out on Long Island.
Yes, sir. It's early, it's quiet, and there's no margin for error. The course doesn't prepare itself, and the people who do it right know what it takes. This podcast is powered by the Toro Company. Equipment that shows up every single day, just like you do. Reliable, precise, and proven. Because when the first group steps up, the work is already done. Toro. Count on it. And you were just at another Super Scratch regional event. Looked like things went well. I love the swag bags that you guys do for the competitors. That's awesome.
Yeah, those events are just so much fun. Yeah, we had our northern qualifier at Blue Mound, just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Just a great group of clubs represented. You know, again, Super Scratch events, they pair superintendent with a member from the club. And it's just so much fun listening to people after the event come up to us and say, you know, we had no idea there was this problem facing the industry. We had no idea, like, turf enrollment was down so much, and all these things. And, you know, talking about leaving something energized, you know, so many people leave that energized, wanting to get involved, wanting to be a part of the solution. So yeah, it was a great event. It had some fantastic conversations. The weather was absolutely perfect. The golf course was phenomenal. Shout out to Dan Bader and the entire team at Blue Mound. They delivered. It's an old Seth Rayner, so a bunch of template holes out there with wild green complexes and all the things. Just an absolute blast. So yeah, appreciate everyone coming out for that. If you haven't attended one yet, we've got a couple still coming up. Take a look at the superscratchfoundation.org and sign up. They're so much fun and do a lot of good for our industry.
Frank, how's it going?
Hi, Adam. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Frank, good
Ryan,
morning.
good to see you again.
Yes, sir. As always, graduation week, huh? You got some stuff going on.
It's a busy guy.
Yeah, I'm the director of the agricultural sciences major. So we got 135 students across 4 years studying agriculture. This is where our, the 4 kids we have in turfgrass stuff. This is the major they take at Cornell. It's, corn and soybean guys, a lot of business, agribusiness, kids interested in animals, but not necessarily in vet school. So it's a good, broad major. I've been doing it for about 5 years. It's great fun. You have to be willing and patient to work with the young people nowadays, right? This has evolved dramatically, right? You see superintendents having to deal with this with employees, right? Just the cultures and how things have changed. I've been teaching 30 years, right? At 3 institutions, Michigan State, Wisconsin, and now here. And, you get to know how students operate, right? And I definitely can tell you COVID has had a big and lasting impact on a significant portion of our population that was in a certain age group. Anyway, good to see you guys. What are we doing?
Yeah,
What am I doing here? I'm usually the one asking questions. What am I doing?
We just wanted a great personality to come on here and just kind of lead the conversation for us. So, you were the guy.
Right,
We always start these off, Frank, with giving you the opportunity here just to give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do.
So I'm let's see. I don't know. What am I? Well, what I'm currently
You sound like me, and everyone asks me, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I support superintendents with communication stuff."
So okay. What do I do? What am I doing right now? Well, I guess the big thing would be I'm in my 30th year at Cornell University. I got my Ph.D. back in 1990, and I've essentially been in support of golf course, all turfgrass stuff. Right? I find golf is, of course, where the money has been, and of course, how I got into the business and where a lot of the research dollars have been over the years. But it's really been a joy to be able to participate and contribute in science to guys who do the work out in a very ambiguous world, whether it's ambiguous because of golfers or climate or soils or labor. And giving guys some science that makes parts of their jobs easier and better. In my case, always better for the environment. This has sort of been the paramount thing for me. But I also I teach a food systems class at Cornell right now.
Wow.
I've got the podcast that I've been doing for 13. I'm in my 13th year now.
Yeah.
I have consulting opportunities. I walk on about 100 golf courses a year.
Oh, boy.
And I meet with lots of superintendents really all over the world. I was in Japan in February with my old grad student, Micah Woods. That was great fun. So anyway, I guess you'd consider me an academic. I've devoted my, professional life to sort of research and development and quite a bit with implementation. It's one thing to do the science. It's another thing to get the golf course industry or any industry to adopt, that technology or that particular practice. So I've always been as interested in implementing as much as I've been interested in discovering, I guess you'd say.
So 100 golf courses a year, Frank.
Yeah.
Let's just jump right into it. What is the pulse of the superintendent? What is the biggest challenges that you see over and over again?
Well, okay, let's start with the context, right? You guys are young. I think I got kids your age. And I'll tell you, this is the best golf has been in 40 years. we had a little run around Tiger Woods, but the problem around the Tiger Woods era was that we had an oversupply of golf courses. So even though rounds were doing well, everybody really wasn't benefiting. And they had, built a lot of these $200 a round public joints. And, that just crashed around the Woods thing. And, from Woods until the pandemic, we were losing 200 golf courses a year. I mean, everybody was scraping by. I travel around with distributors, service reps that sell Civitas, by the way. And so I get to see a frontline view of sort of what the perception is. I got to tell you, challenges, their biggest challenges is, what infrastructure project they have to manage now. I go very few places that aren't investing in deferred maintenance, right? When golf was sucking wind. Right? Nobody was spending money on infrastructure. So you got a lot of old irrigation systems. You got a lot of old bunkers. You got a lot of old complexes. You got a lot of old stuff that needs a reset button for the most part. And so I see a lot of capital projects. I see, of course, in some places more than others, challenges with labor. But I will say, I don't go to a single golf course where we don't talk about the impact automation's about to have. I don't understand. We're going to hit this inflection point. We're doing some really critical analysis of a variety of factors. My colleague, Carl Scamenti, and Carl just built a tool, sort of, you enter in a bunch of stuff about how old your fleet is, how many acres, right? What's your lease, that sort of stuff, maybe 25, 30 questions that you answer, and it sort of spits out a return on investment, right? And I will say, the easiest place for guys to start is their range. Get the range going. Not only to, get your staff off of that, but get those knucklehead kids that drive the carts.
Run over the flags out in the middle.
Run over the flags, bury the balls. There's probably balls 10 feet deep in most of these ranges.
Everywhere.
Anyway, so I think right now, I'd say it's a very interesting time to be in the golf course industry. And I would even say, in 2009, when everything sort of got sucked out, right? Turfgrass programs shrunk, graduates shrunk, right? And you're seeing now, how many guys do you talk to that aren't looking for a good assistant or a couple of assistants or at least people who know what they're doing? And I think, that's the lag effect from sometimes what happens. Nobody went into the business for a while, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's, those are the kinds of things, we have some issues in New York with climate. When I go to Colorado, they're very worried about water because of the lack of snowpack out there. I think same in Southern California, but also in places like Seattle and Portland and Vancouver, where they're also going to face water restrictions because of where some of their water comes from. So, those kinds of issues are going to be more pressing and regional by their nature. But I don't know, a couple of years ago it was cloudy in Florida, right? And nobody could play golf in the winter. Everybody was whining, pissing, and moaning. I haven't heard that for a while, so I got to believe golf's good in Florida. And Florida and the desert is a big part of what sustains golf, right, through the winter months. Anyway, the other thing guys complain about is a lot of people play and they can't get their work done.
Yeah.
They need 40 guys in the morning and 4 guys the rest of the day because you can't get anything done.
Well, certainly are a lot of challenges, and we're very fortunate to have people like you to help solve some of the problems out there. And like I said when we started here, Frank, I'm a big fan of yours. Listened to a lot of different shows that you've had. There's a big reason why you are on the show today is because we wanted our listeners to get to know you a little bit more and your stories. Please take us back to when you first got into the industry, falling in love with it, and kind of working your way up to where you are now.
I was born, in the New York metropolitan area in an Italian-American home. My grandparents all came on the boat. And my dad drove a train. My mother worked for the phone company and then was a beautician. Sewed canvas bags in the basement for Bloomingdale's. And I think my dad had a pizza shop right before I was born. So they've always sort of been
classic.
Come from a hustling family. My dad's family was from the Naples area of Italy. My mother's family from Bari along the Adriatic Sea. So I start there because I think, I'm very culturally, Italian. I was also raised in a, Catholic family in a Catholic church, and sort of that evolved. That sort of religiosity for me has evolved over time. So, that's sort of the core of, I think, what I am. And I guess, I'm the father of three lovely kids and now the grandfather of a 7-month-old granddaughter. But, that's who I am. Guess what? I started cutting grass. I was like, this is pretty cool. I did it just by happenstance, right? I just started cutting grass, and then my brother-in-law started cutting grass, and then I kept cutting grass, and then I worked for another company cutting grass, and then I went to a golf course cutting grass. And on the golf course, I learned a little bit more about, wow, I would open up the USGA green section record. I'm talking about when I was like 14, 15 years old. And I just was drawn to it. I was a bit of a reader as a kid. I liked to read a lot. I was actually kind of, believe it or not, I'm test out as an introvert, like most academics do. Because
I do not believe that.
Yeah, well, it is in fact true. It is in fact true. So anyway, I took a liking to it. I really liked the practice of it for a while. I worked in the metropolitan New York area on golf courses and pursued my education at Cobleskill, and then with Bob Emmons, and then on to the University of Rhode Island with Dick Scoglie, Tom Duff, Noel Jackson, back in the heyday, right? Back in the heyday of University of Rhode Island, which is almost wrapped up right now. And then I went to work at the Greenwich Country Club, and as an assistant superintendent under a guy named Paul Caswell. And I could tell relatively quickly that was not going to be an environment that I was going to thrive in. One piece of property working for a particular culture of golf course maintenance. Let's leave it at that. And so I got a bit disillusioned, and I went to a field day one day, and Dr. Scoglie at Rhode Island was asking me how I was doing. I was like, I don't really like it, Doc. I think I want a little bit more than this, than what this is offering me at this stage. And that was back in the day when you could be a superintendent when you were 23, 24 years old. I mean, my pal John Carlone wasn't a superintendent not long after that, and he just retired 40 years.
Yeah,
superintendent. So. Anyway, so then I went to grad school at Rhode Island with Dick Scoglie, and really I loved it. I found something I liked. I liked the study of it. I like cutting grass. I still cut grass today. But I really like the study of it. And I think being a superintendent, and then when I was at Rhode Island, I ran this little estate course. They had like 6 greens and a bunch of tees. And I had 2 guys that worked with me. And so there's my little, being a golf course superintendent days. But I worked at Point Judith Golf Club. And, when I was there, I cut greens with Dan Cunningham, who's been the groundskeeper at Yankee Stadium for 39 years, 40 years himself. So that was it. And then I was not going to go any further. I wanted to be a green section agronomist for the USGA. There were no jobs. An opportunity opened at Cornell University. My first wife left me, and off I went to Cornell. And 3.5 years here. Then I got my first job at Michigan State, working with Bruce Branham, Paul Ricci, Joe Vargas, just Eric Miltner, Mike Saffel. It was such a crew back then. Dave Smithley. Yeah, I mean, we're talking. I mean, I got the heyday of that particular place. I got to tell you, that was, and they love. I mean, that was where I learned about working in a team. They were all to a person enormously. And Trey Rogers, of course. How did I leave out Trey, who's still at it, by the way?
Yep.
And so then I went to UW-Madison. The job opened up there, and I became a professor, was there for 4 years. And I had a lot of interaction with a lot of students. Loved the great state of Wisconsin. Would not have left that place for any other place but Cornell. And here I am. And, I've evolved as, I'm the turfgrass extension person here. And long time, it's been a great run. So I'm going to shut up.
No, you're perfect. I'm glad you mentioned the extension piece, because I know in your role, you wear a ton of different hats, whether it's teaching, being director of the agronomy or the agriculture school, plus the extension and supporting all these superintendents within your region and well beyond it sounds like. Just talk about all the things you do within your role there at Cornell.
Oh God.
And how do you handle it?
Yeah.
Well, I wish it's, you know, I, I'm a big baseball fan. I mean, I'm going to try to answer it this way. Not that I think I'm Derek Jeter, but this is what I've noticed about my own stuff. Because as you get on in years like me and you get to have a reputation and you get some notoriety, at least, a little bit that I get in this business anyway, you're so busy doing it, you don't really think about the things you're asking me about. So I don't have a really good stock answer, but they used to ask Jeter when he was playing, oh, you did this, you did that. Wow, you won this, you won that. And he just was on to the next thing. I was, on to the next thing until he wasn't. Right. And then I think he's been much more reflective since he's been out. Right. But I think now, even at the end, I'm only a few more years from, retiring up my academic career anyway at Cornell. And I don't know what's going to go beyond that. I probably get a horse, and I got a farm. My wife and I have been farming for a while. We're moving from animals to now she does cut flowers and wedding stuff, but I'll get a horse. And, I like being out in the countryside. Even though I'm a city kid, I visit and travel the cities a lot, which I love, but I really like living out in the countryside. So, I don't know how I do it all. All I can tell you is that I'm wired this way. To be able to multitask and almost, I think, enjoy the diversity of the work. And I think that's what it's been. And I've always sort of followed, if I really thought I wanted to do something, that's one of the great things about an academic, right? I mean, if I really thought I wanted to do something, nobody put a gun to my head and said, Frank, you got to be the director of the ag science major. I decided that I had taught these kids for a while in horticultural sciences, the general introduction hort class that I taught for a while, learned about grapes and vegetables and all this other stuff. And I guess you'd say I really like learning, and I really liked working with the students. And so when the opportunity came up, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. Now, my wife will tell you, that's taking it out of me. I will tell you, it's not like you do these things and they don't exact the cost. And this is sort of the grind. I learned it back in the day where you were working 100-hour weeks. And it was just you never thought about leaving a place till 6 o'clock at night if there was potential for wilt on these poa greens with, this much root. I'm talking about even before we understood what anthracnose was. Back in the days when I was dragging a hose back then. So, I developed I come from working class Italian Americans. I like to work. I'm curious about things. This is what I've decided to be curious about. There are just many things. That's why I think I'd have the podcast. I love asking people questions about, the stuff that they do.
We are back with another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring Ph.D. agronomist Tony Goldsby from the Andersons. And our question this week comes in from Elise McPhee. What is the safest way to deal with geese laying eggs on your property?
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me on the show this week, Adam. And thanks again for all the great end user questions. And Elise, yeah, I had to do, honestly, some digging myself, right? So I'm an avid waterfowl hunter myself, but honestly don't know a lot about caring for geese or relocating them in this case. So yeah, I, did a little bit of digging and was honestly pretty surprised to find, you really got to be careful and follow your local wildlife regulations because most places, geese and their nests are are considered protected areas, right? So really getting in them and, doing anything as far as relocation in most cases is kind of a no-no. So probably a better and safer approach in most areas is going to be working with a licensed wildlife professional or removal process that, someone who knows how to actually manage that nest can help you to, understand what the proper time of year to make that move would be, or if it's even possible. And then really long term, how can we modify that habit to make sure it's not quite as attractive for future goose populations to move in. So some of the big things that they were hitting on that, they might mention when you're going through that process is just reducing easy shoreline access, right? So if they've got a really easy way to get in and out of water, that's obviously going to be a really nice, attractive place for them. Taller buffer vegetations, right? All great things that I think are probably things you see on a lot of courses too. So probably why we naturally see geese. and then really just minimizing those feeding opportunities, right? So if you can kind of take away that area where they can't get to water really easy and they don't have easy access to food, obviously it kind of pushes them down, no pun intended, to the next course or next place that they can, go find a little bit easier buffet to get to. So, and then I think, long term, you might be able to find a way to relocate them. But typically it's, like I said, probably better to try to put them on a part of your course or an area where, again, you could have them and they have a little bit less impact versus where they are today. But, always go to the pros. Like I recommend, reach out to a wildlife professional. They can definitely come up with a plan for, how to kind of handle them in your area, but definitely something that, also a lot of other ways, whether it's the flyaway dogs I've seen at the golf course show every year or two. A lot of ways that you can obviously help to keep goose populations down and impacting your course. So that's what I was able to dig up, Adam. So keep them coming from the tough questions, but that was definitely a new one for me.
Yeah, I guess it depends really where you are. Up here in Canada,
Yeah.
we it's the Canadian goose, right? So we deal with them quite a bit, and it's always an issue every spring when they're trying to nest and lay their eggs. And we have dogs that chase them on the course, but it's still it's still an issue. And the biggest thing I've found from over the years is that even if you disrupt the nest or take the eggs or do something to the eggs, they're still going to try and lay eggs there. They're still going to try and live there and raise young there. But you really have to try and push them off the property and show them that this is not where you want to raise a family. This is not a safe place for you. They're not very smart animals. But if you're able to figure out ways to get them to move along their way, like having dogs or lights or loud sounds or whatever it is, if you're able to move them on, that's really good, because then they raise families somewhere else. And usually the geese come back every year to where they were born. So if you can eliminate them kind of being born on the golf course, then you shouldn't have the issue. The issue is when you do have someone born on the golf course, which happens, that's where they want to live, and now they're protected, and you try your best to try and keep them, alive, because there's coyotes and other things, right? So it's always been a battle for us, but I've always found the best way is to try and just show them that this is not the safest place for you to live. There's lots of other ponds and habitats around, so get out of here. This wraps up another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring Dr. Tony Goldsby from the Andersons.
It seems like a renewed appreciation for the trades has hit society as the work's become more scarce. You can't find a plumber, can't find an electrician, can't find a competent greenkeeper. And I think what people didn't understand, and I think we all know about this, but we're fighting the sort of perception, what are you just cutting grass?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're just cutting the grass. Just make sure the mowers work, right? And so it's skilled work, even at the person running a rough machine or soon to be overseeing a bunch of robots.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, why do you think we are in that lull of turfgrass program enrollment, and how do we remedy the issue right now?
This is a touchy subject, because my particular view of it is that there just aren't a lot of kids that look like the three of us who want to do this work anymore, even at the managerial level, because of the hours and the environment. I mean, listen, I have 4 sets of rain gear. How much rain gear you guys got?
Yeah.
You
know what I mean?
Too much.
Yep.
You don't walk on 100 golf courses and not have tons of rain gear and shoes and hats.
I've always got the excuse, though, that I've got a video camera usually with me, and so
There
I'm
you
just
go.
like, I can't go out, guys. Sorry.
I mean, when you go, I was with Eric Johnson just a couple of weeks ago at Chambers Bay, and what a great joy. He's one of the great professionals in this business, right? Represents that sort of tree of Bandon, Spyglass, Oregon State, Tom Cook, that great stuff that goes on up in the Pacific Northwest. And, he was talking about it's getting kids to want to do this work is not what it used to be. And so I think that's where it starts. So there's 2 ways to go. One is we have to find young people in earlier years who are not looking for necessarily a college education. Maybe a certificate. Maybe, there's trades that are taught in the high schools in New York State. It's the cooperative education services we have in New York State, where you can take trades like, beauty school, auto mechanics, plumbing, electricity, vet tech, stuff like that, that you're going to get people there. But honestly, what I think is we got to start teaching our science in Spanish. We got to start encouraging the Hispanic workforces that make up the lion's share of the people who work on golf courses around the world, country anyway, in our country. Yeah. I think we have to start building leadership from within our Hispanic cultures in our golf courses. That's it. I mean, listen, Italians came over and worked in the mines. Asian people came over and built the railroads. We even tried. I don't think we've always treated these people very well, but maybe we could fix that and treat these people well, and maybe start offering this education in a different language. And Adam, you live in a bilingual country, right? I don't have to tell you. And I don't think that's where it gets touchy, right? Especially this day and age. But I really believe that's why I've tried to promote on my podcast and work with him closely, Manuel Chavarria at Texas A&M, who I know is trying to develop some of these programs for getting more people interested in turf. But okay, let me ask you guys. Of course, I would never devalue a 4-year education in any way, shape, or form. But I believe we have to wonder about 4 years of studying turfgrass science, bugs in turfgrass, disease of turfgrass. Maybe we should teach about general diseases, how diseases work, not just in turfgrass. What I believe we could pivot a lot of our programs to is I'm not necessarily saying landscape stuff, but I'm saying facility management. Because I don't have to tell you guys, when you start running big operations, you're not growing grass no more. Growing grass is an assumption. Yes, are there times when it's tricky and it's all hands on deck and drag the friggin' hose and off we go and make sure the wetting agent is working and you got your sprays in place and you got your growth regulators where you want? I mean, I'm not suggesting it isn't complicated and nuanced and worthy of attention. But that's all, that's table stakes.
Yeah.
When I visit big operations like Eric's, with 100 acres of fairways, at Chambers Bay, you got to know how to run an organization. Maybe like the way I run my professional life. You got to know how to run a large organization, managing a lot of different things. I mean, the amount of people big facility managers have to interact with on any given day, from contract, and of course, superintendents are good at it. And therefore, you know what happens? More stuff piles up on their plate, right? They tend to be one of the most, responsible guys at the place. So I don't know how to fix or change or pivot from the traditional turfgrass model for what we've got. I think we may attract more people with other degrees into the 2-year certificate programs. I love that path. And I know Trey and I think John and a bunch of the other 2-year programs have seen that. Where, they've gone for English or history. Heck, Andy Wilson, who runs Bethpage, was a history major, English major, right? And got some additional education, Rutgers training.
Yeah, I see that all the time. I mean, I know a lot of superintendents, directors at facilities whose kids are thinking about getting into the business, and those guys are encouraging, go get a 4-year degree in business management or communication or something different, and then get a certificate while you're working. Those soft skills of leadership, management, communication are really what is going to separate you and help elevate you.
100%. Dave Dudonis, one of my former students and one of what I consider to be one of my closest friends, who runs Westchester Country Club, right? Grew up working guy. He was a hockey player. He was a goalie.
There you go.
He played for Saranac Lake in Adirondacks. And, he sort of wanted to be, when he sort of figured out what he wanted to do, went to Cobleskill, did his master's with me, worked at Desert Mountain, right? Worked at Westchester Country Club for Joe Alonzi. And then really wanted to run, and then went to North Jersey for a while, ran a nice club in North Jersey, and really wanted to run Westchester Country Club. It's a beach club. It's a grass thing. It's a this. It's a that. I don't know if you've ever seen that place, but it's the Biltmore in Westchester County. It's a, 20-story hotel in the middle of the suburbs, which is country. And I guess what I'm getting at is that sort of stuff where you can run these big operations also you have to be mindful about it. You can't just want to work at a tournament course, right? You got to think about what kind of an operation you want to work at. Whether it's 18 holes, there's many multi-course facilities. Andy runs a multi-course facility at Bethpage. So I think there's a lot of opportunities we can prepare people for that we need to adapt what we're doing too. Now, that's not disparaging what we do. Cal Bigelow, Purdue. I mean, the number of programs that generate really exceptional students. And one more thing about this. Brian, you're an Ohioan, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So Mike O'Keefe. How about that guy?
Stud. The international stud.
How many great people has that guy brought into this business?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you could count them.
So how about we just clone him and get a few more guys? Because
that's a terrible idea, Frank. Talent. That's a terrible idea. We don't want to clone Mike O'Keefe. That'd be dangerous.
There's only one.
And we might get some version of Ed Angle. Who I love too, by the way. And there's another thing. Those guys down there, is that where Don Petrella is? No. Who's down there?
No, he just moved on, I think, to Minnesota.
Okay. So who's down there with Ed? At that
Honestly,
Ohio?
not even sure. Not even sure.
Is it Worcester?
Worcester, yeah, Worcester. I'm honestly not 100% sure who they brought in.
Because the other thing that they're doing, and not enough people are doing, is the damn equipment manager job.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay? And how quickly that's changing, right? Used to be you were a pretty decent small engine mechanic. You could probably figure out how to work on reels, okay?
Yep.
Now it's reels, it's a little bit of engines, it's electric, it's computers, it's emissions, it's forget it. You know what I mean? You got to have, you go to an operation like Whistling Straits, you got to have an army of guys between that place and the Irish course out there, right? Just a facility like that, you got to have an army of guys managing the equipment shop, and they're not training them quick enough either.
Certainly,
There's a lot to say here. Yeah, I mean, this is where I think developing it as a trade, right? That it pays pretty well.
Yep.
Right.
Well, I think that's one of those other misperceptions that you're talking about. You know, I think from all the research that I've done and I've seen, the starting wages are now comparable to the other careers. You know, kids are coming out with 4-year degrees in sports management or whatever. You know, we're up there now.
I currently have 4 students this summer from Cornell University, the most I've had in my 30 years here, working on golf courses this summer for 2 reasons. One is they sort of like working outside and have had some exposure to golf or to sports turf. And number 2, they get housing. Some get a signing bonus. They make good hourly. They're all farm kids. They're perfectly happy to work as long as the day is safe to work. And they're like, yeah, I'll do that, Dr. Rossi, all day long. And so we've got them scattered. So, you know, it's good. Here's the thing to keep in mind, back to my context earlier. It's a good time to be in golf right now, right?
Great time.
And so we can start thinking about investing in the future right now, right? And what I hope is, you know, we're able to sustain some level of play. I think as long as remote work remains a staple of our economies, Canada and America. I'm assuming Canada also has a fair amount of remote work going on. Yes, Adam?
Oh, it's a joke. The golf course is so packed every day now. Everybody's out playing.
There you go. They call it the golf effect. They track cell phone data, and you literally see 2 to 3 times more people at golf courses with their cell phones, assuming that's, you know, what they're doing there. And 20 more than you've ever imagined. And so it's harder to get work done. But at the same time, that bodes well. Looks like more young people. I don't know if you guys listen to my podcast, but when I started writing before I did podcasts, I used to write articles for Brad Klein back in the late 90s. You guys know Brad Klein?
Oh, yeah.
Heard the name.
Yeah. Brad writes for the USGA, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, won the Donald Ross Award for his book on Donald Ross that he wrote for the USGA. Yeah, he's a preeminent golf writer. I wouldn't call him the Warren Wind of in that layer, but he's like that. He writes waxes poetically about golf. Was a professional caddy, fancies, and you know, on the other hand, has a Ph.D. in nuclear policy. and has published widely in the nuclear policy era. So Brad got me started writing, and so I don't know, what were we talking about before I got on that tangent? Forget about it. I don't know where I was going with that. I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about your podcast, and then went into Brad.
Well, I started writing before I started doing my podcast. Yeah. And that's what I was talking about. I don't know why I was going to do that, but never mind. And that's how I started doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I started writing, and then it evolved.
It's insane, how much the industry has changed. I've only been in it, about 10 years now myself. And I remember first starting at the golf course, being a hockey player. You go from being kind of the guy and everyone's helping you out and supporting you, and you get to the golf course and you're working hard and everybody's there and nobody cares. And you're treated like the help, and people are saying things to you, and you're like, what? How are these people talking to me like this? I remember one time I had to call my superintendent and say, what does sadistic mean? And he's like, what? I was like, well, some lady just told me I was sadistic. I was like, I don't even know what she was talking about. And it's just crazy that awareness of what we're actually doing and not just cutting grass. There's so much serious work being done, to these places that are now so popular. And if you don't have a superintendent or a crew, you don't have a golf course. So it's just wild to see the perception of what we actually do. But I really do hope that it is changing. And what we're doing is trying to make it more mainstream and make it look fun, make it look appealing to, the younger generations.
Yeah, I laud all you're saying.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Turf Today podcast. My name is Michael with Steiner Golf Company, and we know that spring isn't just a season. It is go time. It is time to get your course dialed in, ready for everything the season has to bring. Whether that's early tee times, member play, public play, outings, and tournaments, that is where Steiner Golf comes in. We are here to help with everything you need to get your course looking the best this upcoming year. From brand new flags, flag sticks, tee markers, bunker rakes, cups, hole cutters, and everything in between. Because when the golfers show up, first impressions always matter. So this spring, open your course and set the standard for some awesome accessories. Now back to Turf Today.
Now I remember what I was talking about. I was trying to talk about Jim Copenhaver and Stuart Lindsay from Pellucid Golf and Edge Hill Consulting. These guys have been doing analytics of the way we play and how we play. And, if you got so many rounds of golf you can use in a day, how many are you utilizing, much like seats on an airplane? And, when you look at their metrics and when you start to take apart the way people play, we're getting a lot of people play just a very few times, right? When you look at the number of rounds that we do, you have a lot of people who only play 2 or 3 times a year. And that makes up a lot of the 500 million rounds that we're playing. And I think what we have to think about in the golf course arena, whether how people perceive us or not, I think is a perception thing that's always going to be a challenge for us just by the nature of the work being outside. I think that's changing a little bit. And, but in general, these people aren't thinking much about what we do. But I think we have to adapt and maybe get out of the way. And maybe this is where automation comes in. I've had superintendents tell me that by putting automation around the clubhouse in some way, shape, or form that's visible to the members, the golfers, has raised their credibility as techno-savvy, understanding data, smart. You know what I mean? Because they're using technology just by putting a mower that can cut a 45-degree slope that you got to be crazy to put a person on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, Adam, that's what I would say, that there's 2 things going on. One is we have to think about, the way we present ourselves and sort of, the way we carry ourselves, certainly. And that's always been a bit of a thing. And I don't think you can change the nature of the work. It's work that's outside. It's challenging. You have to work in different elements. And it's a subjective industry. One golfer may say one thing, another golfer may say another thing. I mean, they were going like crazy about Aronimink this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, one is we got to understand who's playing golf. These people a lot of people don't get etiquette. They got speakers. Guys are telling me a cannabis shop opens up outside the gate of the golf course. Food revenue doubles. They want to sell cannabis on the cart going around the golf course. Just saying.
Yeah,
I
it's
think there's a
changing.
lot of ways we have to think about adapting our operations. I think that's the other thing. I think if people get attracted to the game, they actually might get attracted to the care of the course.
Yeah.
And I think especially as the use of technology coincides, when you think about why a lot of young people are sticking with golf, even though it's hard, is because they can do it on their phone. They can get a TrackMan, they can do a simulator. It's something that you can get better by using technology. And it's because they're very comfortable with technology, right? They feel very comfortable, and maybe analytical people anyway. They bumped into golf during the pandemic, and now it's stuck. And on the other hand, our industry is becoming more technologically based. And I think that's the other way we're going to attract people into it, right? Not the grind of dragging the hose. I believe the goal should be to never drag a hose. I believe the goal should be a superintendent should be done at noon. Why?
Say more things I like here, Frank. This is good.
I'm sorry. The systems we have today in 10 to 20 years are not going to be the systems we have. And automation is going to transform what we do, right? Which is going to change the way we fertilize. It's likely to change the way our pathogens and pests become problems. We may put UV light. I've seen work at NC State. They're putting UV light on these robots and running them around. And we're learning about the role that can play in disease and other pest control, right? We got see and spray technology that you can drive. You can get a guy to come in for a day and just see and spray through the night.
Crazy.
Right? Right. So I just think we can't be constrained in any way, shape, or form for what we see happening in our business now. And I think it's that constraint, Adam, that prevents kids from coming in. If we offered it in a way that was the way I'm describing, more expansive, more technologically important, yes, you got to know how to grow grass. And man, nobody likes growing grass better than I do. I talk to guys about it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You kidding me? Who doesn't love to talk about grass? But that's only a portion of what makes any person in this business successful. And yet, our primary focus of our education is strictly and mostly in turfgrass stuff.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head. I want to go back to what you mentioned about, some of the perception. How much do you think we, as our industry, the professionals in our industry, have shot ourselves in the foot by staying in the shadows, not being proactive with communication and things like that?
This is a very interesting question. I'm an introvert. You can't be an academic who spends most of my time reading and writing, right? I talk, I have podcasts, I do travel, I walk. Most of the time, I'm with my wife. Now it's because I'm an empty nester. A wife with a granddaughter and my kids. But I spend a lot of time alone, and I think many superintendents, the personality types we get, are introverted, right? And so I don't know that we're shooting ourselves in the foot. I don't look at it like we're making mistakes. I look at it like we have to recognize what are the important things to be successful in this job. And if I have to function as an extrovert for a portion of it, I better learn how to do it. Or I better find a different job that doesn't require it. Right. Some superintendents' jobs, there's ways superintendents can quietly just report to people who they trust. The members trust them. And there's a long-term relationship. And those organizations those courses also tend to have succession plans, right? That you try to build from within. Now, you got to be careful because it's also a way to compound mistakes. If you do something stupid for 30 years, and then the next guy does it for another 30 years, it's still stupid, right? but it's what you've always done. So I think you've definitely got to watch out for some of that stuff. So I think perception wise, I think we're personality types that generally like to stay in the shadows. And as much as I like to talk, I will tell you, I take great satisfaction in knowing what goes on behind the scenes. Like, John Sorokin took a class with me when I was at Michigan State, right? So I know John a long time and Trey a long time. I can tell you, I like all the little things I know about what's going on with FIFA and the research and those guys and the things behind the scenes and Kylie and the machine John built. And, they're just, there's a part of me, and I think a lot of us in this business, we don't need to be out front, but it's sort of nice to know what's going on behind the scenes, right? I look at it like that too. But I do think the simple answer to the question is we got to work against our type sometimes.
Yeah.
And that requires some training and intentional commitment to develop some of those skills, because you're going to have to work through your comfort level. And you're going to suck at it at first.
Yep.
It's hard. You're going to strip over. You're going to say dumb things, right? Here's the rule I learned from, guys like Tom Usgen and other people. One beer with the members and leave. That's it. And one beer and leave. No matter how much they want you to stay, one beer and leave. Right? That's an easy way to stay out of trouble.
Yeah. It's great advice.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about tournament prep. I know you were part of a number of tournaments, Bethpage being one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Just some of your experience and takeaways from being there.
Yeah, this is living out my sort of dream of working on golf courses, right? Because I didn't choose it as, what I wanted to do with my professional life. But I love it. I love it. I do, and so the first and foremost, I really like working on the crew. I worked on Joe Hahn's U.S. Open crew that Curtis Strange won back-to-back in 1989. Right next to Jim Skorolski, the old USGA agronomist. He was we were both grad students at Cornell back then. And I got my first taste of it. And I was like, ooh, this is really cool. I had worked on golf courses, but I had never done anything at a high profile level. And then, I would say from there, it didn't really happen again until 2002 for the U.S. Open at Bethpage. When I got to Cornell, the U.S. Open was awarded to Bethpage, and we got involved with them immediately, training the staff and doing some projects. And I just love the grind of a tournament like that. I love getting up in the morning. I love the camaraderie in the tent in the morning. I'm a morning person, so if you give me a cup of coffee at 3:30 in the morning, I'm pretty good to go. Right? I mean, I might want to nap at 9:30, right?
Yeah.
I might want to nap at 9:30, or I'm not, I don't make it through the day like these young guys do, and then they drink at night and forget it. You look at them on Saturday, they're a hot mess, that crew. It's so great. So there's these cultures to these volunteering efforts. But, sometimes it's a great, easy peasy. So there's like nothing to it. It's full enjoyment. And then there was 2009 at the U.S. Open at Bethpage, where we got 6 inches before the U.S. Open and like 3 inches during the tournament. It was, forget it. Oh, my God. And actually, that event was when Andrew Cuomo was the state attorney general and pissed off the USGA, wanting the USGA to refund all the Thursday passes because it got rained out after the first guys teed off.
Yeah.
And Cuomo disparaged the USGA, and that was the end of the USGA at Bethpage. And if you see, we got involved with the tour and then the PGA of America after that, which now looks like it's a lasting commitment. So anyway, I love prepping for tournaments. I do nothing. You got 50 guys to do 3 jobs, right? I've used scissors to cut around sprinkler heads, right? All the knucklehead stuff you do. But you also, I will say, you see the U.S. Open, the USGA people are one end of the spectrum, where they're completely ridiculous about the thinking that they put into every single pin position. And then there's Kerry Haig, up until recently, really sort of stayed behind the shadows. But in the last few years, he's been struggling a little bit with setup. He got criticized at the LPGA event down in Frisco. I think that golf course is taking a lot of criticism from my pal Gil Hance and Jim Wagner. That golf course is taking some criticism. I know it's hard and dry. That's what we built it to be. So anyway, Setup matters a lot. I've always surprised how much people whine about setup. And that's been really interesting to see behind the scenes. My staff got very much involved with the Ryder Cup. We had a lot of data that we were taking in the run-up and during. We were told to do something and did it. And then I got to tell you, this may not be a popular comment, but as far as I'm concerned, Keegan Bradley, Justin Thomas, and even Scheffler, they can pound sand as far as I'm concerned. They disparaged the grounds crew and the setup, and I think Keegan needs to take full responsibility, not only because he's a knucklehead Red Sox fan, but because he really failed. He abdicated his responsibility, I think, to work with the maintenance staff. He's the one that decided how that place had to get set up. And you can tell I'm still a little grumpy about it because you guys know, you bust your ass that this is not, and a lot of people take issue with volunteering. I get it. I get that argument too. People, we shouldn't volunteer, blah, blah. Okay. There's two sides to this. I'm like, I get paid to do it. I choose to do this with my time. Everybody can think what they want, but it's an enormously valuable experience. I encourage young people to do it. Just to be around your profession at the highest level is I think, the greatest joy. I just love watching superintendents produce these enormously high-performing surfaces. I have just the greatest admiration for those guys as much as I have for my, guys that run munis in Denver, putting 60,000 rounds through. Huh?
So something I've been staring at and been waiting to ask you this entire conversation. That quote behind you is fantastic. Every path has a few puddles. Love for you to talk about that and how it relates to this industry.
Well, the first way it relates to this industry is it didn't stop effing raining in the Northeast for the last 2 months. We're just soaked in many parts of the Northeast. Now, there's also quite a bit of dry spots. So, listen, I can tell you, I learned a lot more from my failures in my young life, and I made a lot of them early. I got a lot of the dumb shit. I still doing it, but I got a lot of the stuff that, can cost you more when it happens when you're older. It happened to me when I was younger. And, I had a great family that supported me through it. And you'll hear my kids say this, I believe that part of raising kids is to have them face some adversity, not to shelter them from everything. And, I used to, my wife should be, oh, look what my daughter or son, I'm like, it's good. They should have some adversity, right? They're supported by us and the family around that we move back to be near, right? And I think sometimes we forget that that's, part of the process. And, I'm not, and I work in an environment, right? I mean, this is where they're supposed to be doing and making mistakes, right? The environment that I've devoted my professional life to, whether it's superintendents out there or students on the campus, has been, helping these kids make sure they understand that, sometimes it rains a little bit too much and there's puddles. And you got to decide. When you're really little, you see the kids jumping up and down, making a splash and having a ball. And as you get older, you maybe avoid them a little bit. But somewhere in between, you hope you don't slip and fall in them, right? But I tell you, when you do, it's getting back up that matters. Listen, Brian, Adam, how many guys in this business are on their second or third jobs, right? Because things didn't work out. Sometimes things don't work out, right? Sometimes, and it's sometimes a good learning experience from it, right? And
absolutely.
So I've watched a lot of superintendents rebound very effectively from this. So that's all it is. It's just, you gotta get, I'll tell you something weird. I figured out weird about myself. The two sports I like the most, baseball and watching golf. I don't play golf very well, but I like to play once in a while. They're actually games that are very slow, methodical, right? And most of the time you fail. Most of the time, I mean, you're a baseball player and you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you make it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right? Same with golf. right? I mean, you talk about what these guys were talking about, these little areas they had to hit it into, or eventually somebody's got to start making a putt, and Adam Rye did, right? I mean, you have to sort of put up with, you're going to fail more times than you're going to succeed. And when you, I mean, especially as an academic, how many grants I've written, I never gotten a dime.
Yeah.
It's all about the experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be sensitive of your time here. I just had one final one written down. There's so much meat in this episode. This is going to be fantastic for our community. But going back to you, Frank, when people look back at your career someday, what do you hope your biggest impact on the industry was?
I guess it starts with the people that I've worked with. I think the students, undergrads, and especially graduate students that have gone on to, contribute in meaningful ways to the industry, would be where I would start. That's, I think, what almost anybody who does my work feels like they contribute the most to. And then I would think after that, if you looked at the sort of, I have a variety of things that I publish papers on, from, pesticide reduction and nutrient use and nutrient uptake and pre-emergent crabgrass stuff to machine learning now. I'd like to think that we've contributed in meaningful ways to the scientific conversation to move the industry forward. And first and foremost, my emphasis has been on sustainability since I used that word back in 1990. That we needed it to be sustainable when no one was using that word. So I feel like people, and then projects, and then philosophical approach, which has been, we should be as resource efficient as possible. We shouldn't just spray because that's what the rep says I got to have to cover everything that I'm doing. And I pick on different areas of the industry, right? I could say the same thing about wetting agent people and watering. And so it's the things we do. I've tried to make people think critically about them. So I guess hopefully that's what it is.
Yeah, I would say so. That and a lot more for sure.
We always like to close these out by just giving you the floor. If there's anything you want to talk about, anything you want to close this out with, the floor is yours, sir.
I mean, I have a million things I could say.
Oh, yeah, we could talk to you all day long, Frank.
We'll hit a certain amount of time.
By the way, I got a student waiting outside my door.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We'll let you go.
Yeah.
We'll let you go. Thank you so much, Dr. Rossi. It was great to see you.
That was incredible.
Beautiful.
What a fantastic person. And like I said, I was trying to get some stuff about him out of there, but he's so good at just directing the conversation and just having different opinions and things to say. And man, I could listen to that guy talk all day.
Yep.
All day.
True professional. Fantastic. Yeah. He's certainly had a big impact. I know he speaks at events all over the country and just got a great reputation, and certainly has done, again, fantastic things for this industry as a whole.
I was talking to a few guys in my area. He spoke at the first local conference I ever went to.
Oh, really?
This was probably 2016, 2017, maybe. And they had him on the Ottawa Valley Turfgrass Association panel. Did a couple talks, so I don't really remember it very well. Unfortunately, we've done a bunch of those over the years, but going back on some of that, he was there and didn't get to meet him, but there's been a connection for years. So it was really cool to get to talk to him today, and there's so much in that episode. My goodness. Yep.
No, it was great. Lots of insight. Covered a lot of different topics, and no, that's going to be a good one.
Dealing with thatch buildup and slow turf response, BioReverse DG is designed to help break it down. Its granular formulation combines 3 targeted microbial strains with a 69% humic acid base, providing a food source to support microbial activity and drive the breakdown of organic matter. Built on DG technology, it disperses quickly with water, helping move it into the thatch layer where it can start working. As the thatch breaks down, nutrients are released back into the system, supporting improved soil activity and more consistent performance. A practical way to manage your organic matter and improve the efficiency in your program. To learn more, visit andersonspro.com.
That is going to wrap up this episode of Turf Today. A huge thank you to Frank Rossi for taking the time to join us and share his experience, insight, and perspective on the golf course industry. Frank, we really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to our sponsors and all of the listeners for continuing to support the show and support this entire industry. We are all in it together. Be sure to head to the link in our Instagram bio, our link tree, where you can find a whole bunch of great links. Our merchandise shop is there, available jobs through Bloom Golf Partners, access to the green section record through the USGA, and a whole lot more. If you like the show and want to keep hearing more, throw us a rating and a quick review. Everything helps. Thank you to everybody for listening. Keep those reels sharp, and we will see you next week here on Turf Today.
I don't chase hype, I chase habits. Same sweat, same flow, new standard. Every rap, every gauge, I stack it. Earn cuts on my hands, that's branded. No cheat dates, so forever. If it's not hard, I'll make it happier. Say you want more than to the measure. I turn pressure into my pleasure. I stay locked in when it hurts. I dig deep or make you up. I don't break, I just burn. Turn that pain into what I earn. Every day, same wall, same shirt, same scar, new strength, I'll learn. I stay locked in when it hurts. When it hurts, when it hurts, when it hurts, when it hurts, when it hurts. Yeah. Tall, cheap, discipline, expensive, painful to my post, gets expensive. Mind on a mission, cold and relentless. Throwing on my chest at the face successes. I don't wait on mood, I move. At the tie, still stick to the rule. Can't sticks loud, I mute that proof. Cause it blast me brains and I follow through. I say locked in when it hurts. I dig deep or make you up. I don't break, I just burn. Turn that pain into what I earn. Every day, same goal, same set, same score. Too straight, all love. I stay locked in when it hurts. When it hurts, when it hurts, when it hurts, when it hurts, when it hurts. Yeah. Let's say, lungs tight, heart loud. My more, that's the one that counts. That's mine, legs fire, head cloud. To bend, with them crown, if you love me, just a line of cost. If it lost, just a higher cost. I don't ask, I take my time. It's a beat for the things I burn. Yeah! I stay locked in when it hurts. I dig deeper, make you up. I don't break, I just burn. Turn that pain into what I earn. Every day, same goal, same shirt, same score. Too straight, all love. I stay locked in when it hurts. When it hurts, when it hurts, when it hurts. When it hurts, when it hurts.
You on my mind a lot, don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen, make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in, from the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up, break you in then break you out. In the end we gon' make a child, then we gon' hit the shower. Part 2 we don't need no pause. Here with Misty, we gon' get tipsy, don't need a power shot.
Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. Ain't no cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel. Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. Ain't no cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel.
Got my heart no in the bed. Break you in then. Yeah, this every day. Got my heart no in the bed. Break you in then. Yeah, this every day. This sound like Argentina. Had to fist my demeanor. No, they don't want me breathing. Still I rose like diamonds. Got on 3 Jesus pieces, looking like Jay-Z and Yeezy. So far from conceited, but how can I be defeated? I hate to turn my wrist on like I'm Ben 10. Rappers think they doing something, I'm not a fan. I told my dad today, he said it's all pretend. I got back in my bed, now I got no friends.
Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. Ain't no cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel. Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. Ain't no cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel. Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. Ain't no cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel. Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. Ain't no cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel. Got my heart no
in the bed. Break you in then. this every day.
Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. No cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel. Copy my steel. Face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. No cap, I'm real. The plastic bars from a copy my steel.